Welcome to the PowettPlay Podcast, where international cricketer Kieran, Powell and marketing genius Shannon join forces, bringing you captivating conversations with the biggest players in cricket and business. Join us as we dive into the lives of current stars in the cricketing world, the legends before them, and those extraordinary icons whose performances changed the game in both cricket and business. Exploring journeys both on and off the pitch, the boardroom, and everything in between. Get ready for an exhilarating blend of cricket, life, and business insights, with two insatiably passionate, infuriatingly no-holds-barred hosts, who, unfortunately for the rest of us, live and breathe this stuff for a living.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 38 of the PowettPlay Podcast. I'm your host, Shannon. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Kieran, Powell. And today we are joined by West Indies head coach, Andre Coley. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate, obviously, with your busy schedule over here in England at the minute. So thank you for taking the time to join us. But how are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for the invitation. Good to see KP.
In terms of obviously just starting the pod, I just wanted to sort of discuss a little about your life in cricket, really, and how did it start out in Jamaica?
Similar to most young teenagers in Jamaica, you get exposed to a wide cross section or a number of different sports.
Yeah.
Just at around the high school age, 12, 13, I was exposed to cricket.
Right.
I had a very good coach who would have coached at the school, likes of Mikey Holding. Robert Summers was already in school just ahead of me.
Right.
And a few others. And then my father was also an avid cricket fan. So I could remember days where we lived in a cul-de-sac. I remember days where he would set up a little stump and would use. At that time, I was introduced to what is known as a cork and tar ball.
Right.
I don't know how many youngsters would know about that one, but that was a ball that you don't really want to hit your leg at all. It's gonna leave some dents and so on. So, so that was quite interesting at an early age.
Yeah.
You grew up just playing it at school and went up through the age group ranks, etc.
So at what age did you sort of start playing more in structural wise?
Well, for under 14s. So
right.
Maybe 12, 13.
Right.
And then went through the age group under 14s, under 16s, under 19s. And alongside that school age group cricket.
Right, okay.
Involved in the Jamaica under-9 youth program. Went through that pathway up to the senior ranks, first class cricket.
So how long was you in the youth program for?
I would say maybe 7 years.
Right. Okay.
Because at that stage you could play up to when you were 19.
Right. Okay. And how old was you? Sorry. Right. Okay. And how old was you then when you made your first class debut?
23.
Right. Okay. Nice. And how did that feel?
Well, yeah. I can remember walking across the rope at Sabina Park. Actually made, debut at iconic Sabina Park. I remember walking. Rohan Kanai was the coach. Really, really good mentor and pretty straightforward in how he went about things. Quite clear in his philosophy. So yes, it was. You had people like Courtney Walsh and Nehemiah Perry, Jimmy Adams, etc., who were playing. So it was quite an interesting time.
And then obviously from that perspective, who sort of influences it that when you made your first class debut, and who sort of helped you through that early stages of your career?
Well, it would have been driven from same coach at school,
right?
Late Roy McLean, and then we got into the youth program alongside Junior Bennett, who was a stalwart in Jamaica cricket. He's coached the Jamaica senior team for years, quite successful. And then coached West Indies A team a number of tours. He would have helped to shape some of my cricketing career.
Right.
In that stage, and I played for a couple of years between 1998 and 2000.
And was you always a wicketkeeper as well?
No. Well, when I played at that level, yes. But
Yeah.
when I started at school, I was more of a batter, and the coach, I used to enjoy catching. So, we had this catching cradle at school, and we had to catch a certain number before we actually got into the main part of the training.
Right.
And he identified that I think our main keeper had left, and he identified that I was potentially one of the best catchers. So he said,
Right.
"Listen, are you gonna keep?" I said, "No, no, coach. I keep it. No, that's not for me." And he said, "Listen, if you don't keep, you don't play." So that was a different
No choice.
conversation. That changed the dynamics of things.
No, definitely.
Yeah, so that was memorable.
Kai?
No, obviously Andre Coley, but as I better know him as Scoops. Thank you very much for joining us. I think my first recollection of meeting you, I thought it was at the HPC, but then I remembered it was probably at the under-19 tournament, the one in Barbados where you coached Jamaica. You've been instrumental in, I mean, not just my career, because it's like I think me and Andrew have an interesting relationship. Like he's an honest guy. He's somebody that
Interesting. I'm
yeah,
waiting to hear you find it,
no, because no, he's someone that I can speak honestly to, and he would give honest feedback. But it's never, some people take things personally or take it to heart. But it's like he's always been someone that you can go to with a direct point of view, and that's something that me as a person, I appreciate those types of people that can tell me,
Yeah.
smack, you're fucking around, straight up.
Yeah.
And that's something that he's always been able to hold me at this level to things that I should be doing. So that's something I've appreciated because, as I said, I've known him from since I was playing under-19 cricket. Obviously worked with him a lot in the HPC, and we've sort of both, I guess, seen each other grow throughout our careers, him throughout his coaching career, and obviously me throughout my playing career. But
Yeah.
Andrew, tell me what it was like for you in terms of, like, I mean, obviously you've shaped quite a few players that have gone on to play for West Indies and working through the ranks, players obviously like Nkrumah Bonner. I think personally the world was robbed of what Andre Coley could have been. I think he'd have been a special player for the West Indies had he not had that chronic family injury. But tell me what it was like for you starting out in the coaching field.
Well, first of all, I said, boy, Smack, thanks for them kind words, man. I mean, it's been a number of years, and we have obviously spent time in a number of different programs and watch it transition. So my introduction into coaching was through a development program that Cricket West Indies had started a few years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And they had wanted to start working with wicketkeepers, young under-19 wicketkeepers, and I was asked to join the group who were delivering on it. And initially, I had said no because I hadn't gotten involved in coaching, and I was encouraged to come along and do the demos. I said, no, Andre, come on, man. You don't have to be heavily involved. We just want you to, take the youngsters through demos and so on. And that was really my introduction, and I thoroughly enjoyed that experience and interaction. And then we had a gentleman who is quite known in England, Reg Scarlett. I'm sure he's not he's a popular name, and he actually started me off on my coaching journey and accreditation and education, etc. And so he was quite instrumental in early days when he was, coaching director at West Indies Cricket. And I would have gone through a number of training exercises with him and opportunities.
From your standpoint, I mean, obviously there's various steps to anything in life, but I mean, Jamaica being such a vastly talented nation in terms of sports and entertainment, passionate people, did you always have the ambition to one day coach the West Indies, or was it, you'd be happy to coach Jamaica, like, or you'd be happy to have an impact on cricket and young people and transitioning them into being, I guess, more equipped to potentially go on to play for Jamaica and the West Indies?
But the easy answer is no. Because, as I said before, coaching was never really on my list of things to be involved in. And through my experiences, I think one of the other experience that actually influenced me getting more involved in coaching or exploring my ability to coach was my own personal playing career and how short it was. And I often reflect on that, where I was dropped from the team. And whether at the time I considered the feedback or support I was getting the right one in terms of, you were left out for the wrong reason or whatever. By the time I had gotten to grips and decided that, listen, I've approached this the wrong way, I really needed to have redoubled my efforts and actually get back into the team on the value of performance. But there must have been a reason why I was in the first place and then out. But by that time, I think it was too late, and there was already someone established in the position or the role. So that was also something that actually steered me or pushed me further into coaching, where I said to myself, how many other young players would actually have gone through something like this and potentially made the wrong decision. So a lot of my coaching or philosophy is really around that. So I actually enjoyed coaching young players and more about trying to help them to be better and having more of a positive outlook on things, and that we're not entitled to anything. And in a lot of cases, even when we work hard, you still don't get what you think you're entitled to or owed. So yeah, that was quite interesting experience. And then was asked to coach Jamaica under 15s, had some success there as in terms of players going up the ranks, so under 15s, under 17s, and then got more opportunities. And then when I was asked to coach West Indies under 19, that was a serious honor, big honor, leading a group of the best under 19 players to the under 19 World Cup in New Zealand around 2010. And then I was asked to join the HBC. Kieran mentioned that. I worked alongside Toby Radford and a number of our very good local coaches, Roddy Eswick, Courtney Brown at the time. I hope I've left anybody else out. But yeah, and so it was more around, and then that particular squad was pretty much comprising of the players who were in that World Cup squad. So it was meant to be an emerging group of young players. And I thought that for the 3 years that we ran that, it was fantastic. It's unfortunate that was discontinued, because I thought we were getting better at how that program was being administered. And quite a few players have actually come through that. And then from that, the West Indies teams used to come to that hub in Barbados and prepare for tours. And at the time, Otis Gibson was a coach, and he asked me to join him because I did a lot of the wicket-keeping and fielding. Did some batting at HPC at the time, but my focus was more on wicket-keeping and fielding, and he asked me to join him on a tour. And he liked what he saw in terms of how we worked and working with the players, and I did that for a couple of years, and then a change of coach, and that coach asked me to stay on. So I had done that for about 4 years. And then being an assistant coach, I wanted to explore a leadership, head coach.
Right.
What that would be like coaching. So I had just said to the coach at the time, I think it was Phil Simmons, that, listen, I'm going to step away from this because I really want to explore leading a team. So, my first sojourn into that was coaching the Windward Islands cricket team. I did for a few years, and then the Jamaica opportunity opened up, and I took that because it was better for me to be at home, also coach my home country. So that was also a privilege. So having those opportunities, I as well as other touch points along the way. Working with the women as well, supporting Sherwin Campbell. I did an analyst at some point.
Right.
It is in the West Indies as a coach. Sometimes you have to be, you have to be able to do a number of different things. Anyway, you're doing everything, Kieran. So that is really a synopsis of, and then along the way, I've done some coaching work with Cricket Australia, coaching education pathway, and then I was involved in a executive coaching program that West Indies Cricket had put on at the time, which had 6 coaches involved. I was privileged to have been one of those. And the person who ran that, he's still my mentor, one of my mentors now, as it relates to coaching and leading and inspiring the next generation, etc. So my philosophy has pretty much been, how can I make or assist everyone around me to be better, whether it's players or staff. Doesn't always work in the way you want it, but has always been my the way I look at it.
No, I think it's interesting how you mentioned I guess why you started coaching. I did a level 2 coaching badge with the ECB last year, and I think that, similar to what you said, gave me a different, I guess, perspective on the way that I look at the game. And I think that it would be, I guess, something that would probably be very useful in the Caribbean, obviously, because we don't have, I guess, the breadth or depth of coaching resources as other countries around the world. So if younger players can start becoming qualified coaches and understanding how to look at the game from that standpoint and how to break down their games, I think it would, benefit West Indies cricket going forward. But on to another point, you talked about some of the coaching education stuff you did in Australia. I want you to talk me through that test match win in Australia. More importantly, how was, I guess, the preparation for that, bouncing back from a defeat in the first test and people not expecting the West Indies to be competitive, but unearthing something. Shamar Joseph, the last time we saw a West Indian got 7 in Australia, I think, to my recollection, would be Curtly Ambrose. And that was quite some time ago. So talk us through that victory and what that meant for, in your perspective, what it meant for the team as a whole. How were the guys after that victory?
Yeah, a lot has been said about that particular test match. Not so much about the tour, but the test match. And it meant so much. The result meant so much to so many people across the world. Caribbean people for sure. But I also believe that the way in which we played that series, even though we had lost the first one, we had shown, even from the warm-up game that we had before, we had shown a fight. We had shown some application in all areas. And most would not have known that Shamar, based on some of the rhetoric that I've seen out and I've read, is as if he was just plucked out of obscurity and so on. Most would not have known that he was selected in an A-team tour squad that had toured South Africa in November.
Yeah.
And if you were to look at the players who went on that tour and compared it against a lineup in Australia, you would see some similarities.
Yeah.
So the thinking behind that was to take a few players who were earmarking to take to Australia because there were similar conditions, and to expose them there first, and then just pretty much clarify and define their roles.
Yeah.
So it was not a surprise for that a few other players there actually did well. I think the South Africa tour actually helped to prepare them for that. And we always try to focus and keep things quite simple. So our aim for Australia was to win one test match.
Right.
And the reason for that is that we hadn't won a test match there for years.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that made that goal relevant was because we were only playing 2 test matches. Regardless of whether we won the first or second, that goal would remain relevant. So if we lost the first, then there was still that goal that players could actually get up for the second one.
Yeah.
Which would then still give us an opportunity to achieve the goal that we had set out. So that was the backstory behind that Australia tour. I mean, and it wasn't a situation where we were only looking to win the second. We were actually aiming to win the first. Didn't go as planned. Just like you play, you don't just play and rock up. But yeah, it was fantastic. What I'd say as well is that Australian public came out and supported the team. I think the numbers were in between 25 to 30,000, I believe, both venues.
Yeah.
Which shows that the rest of the world still believes that West Indies cricket played in the manner that we're known to play is still relevant.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work. The balance we have to strike is availability of players and the transition of young players who potentially don't have as much experience alongside more experienced ones and so on. So that's it. That is going to be interesting for us over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Sorry, Kieran.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to quickly say, sort of the confidence that I instilled into the team, I can imagine was huge.
Well, we had the confidence going into Australia because we try to focus on being in the moment.
Yeah.
Realization that yes, we may be playing against experienced players and a team that has been in the top 3 for a number of years.
Yeah.
But we believe that if we stayed in the moment, ball by ball, over by over, and push them for longer, they were human. Yeah, we respect the fact that they have achieved a lot in the game and have good skills, but we also thought that if we were, we also had skills.
Yeah.
We also had a drive and a belief to do well. And if we did the things that we plan to do for long enough, then we would put ourselves in a position to compete.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's generally how we've been looking at things.
And how did you break down the first test at Lords?
I think it's quite interesting one because I think either team we would have bowled.
Right. Okay.
As you saw, England won the toss. But I also thought that in that first innings we weathered the storm quite well, and that after that first session we lost a couple of wickets, but we had a partnership that was really blossoming well. And we fell away after being about 90 for 3 and so on, really rebuilding.
Yeah.
And when you sum up everything, went away basically from the basics of the game. With all the rhetoric around and the significance of the series and so on. You're still playing a test match.
Correct. Yeah.
If you look in the history books, the test match has a number.
Yeah.
Which which tells you that it is still a test match. There are other things that goes with it that could actually escalate how it is perceived. But we actually, from a batting standpoint, we went away from our basics. We're always keen to ensure that there's an intent about how we look to approach a batting.
Yeah.
Each player doing it in his own ways, in his own way, but just working together in partnerships. And then from a bowling standpoint, I mean, obviously we good to have somebody like Jaden Seals. We miss Mitch Kimar, who was really good in Australia, was really a senior figure to the young fast bowlers, very calm in his demeanor. And I was having a conversation with someone at breakfast this morning. He was saying that, listen, really miss Rochi because Rochi was somebody that will allow you to do your stuff. But as soon as he picked up on something, he was at me all the time.
Yeah.
And the guys appreciated that, it wasn't personal. It was about, Roach's way of helping.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a big miss, and he knows his conditions in England.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
But generally, as a bowling unit, I thought we stuck well to our plans for most of the test match or the innings that we bowled in.
Yeah.
And we were able to get 10 wickets in 90 overs.
Yeah.
So that's good.
No, definitely. And what you're looking forward to seeing, obviously, from the lads now going into that second test and third test?
Well, no, we've been in England. We played a test match with, we had maybe 10 days before that.
Yeah.
The conditions are the conditions. These conditions here could change 15, 20 minutes, on a dime.
Definitely, yeah.
It's really about continuing that belief in self and the fact that you deserve to be here, each player.
Yeah.
And asking the questions, what is required of the team? What does the team require of me in this moment?
Yeah.
Don't think too far ahead. Stay in the moment and respond to what is thrown at you.
Yeah.
With the understanding that you are capable. And then the man next to you is also capable. So we do it together as a team.
As a team, yeah. Kieran, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I guess, a host of questions, other things I could ask, but no, we're strapped for time.
Yeah.
Instead of asking a question, I'd just like to say to, I guess, Andre and to the rest of the West Indies team, obviously, I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter if you lose in 2 days or 5 days, you still lost. But obviously the lessons that you take away from the match, because personally for me, I think that you've seen a change, or England are trying to make a change in this aggressive style that they've been playing before, but it wasn't necessarily the same. Obviously, the batting unit knows that their bowling attack is very inexperienced now with Jimmy gone. And so for me, I'd just like to, I guess, convey my best wishes to the team, because I think that a few small changes can make a huge difference in terms of the outcome for the next match. I think that obviously in England, the bowlers want to be a slight bit fuller. It'd be better to be driven than to be cut and pull. I think that Alzari, if Alzari ever bowls that 6 meter length, I mean, if he bowls the length that he bowls for the Leeward, just tell him to bowl the Leeward Islands length, that length, and I promise you will have a different bowler, and that will make a huge difference, obviously, with the absence of Kima, as you mentioned. And it's just for the guys, as you said, to just stick into the contest a bit longer, because every time the West Indies go to England, this happens in the first match, and what it's like in the Caribbean. You've come from not having much preparation time in these conditions, and so it takes time. So now that the guys have had, I guess, a solid two weeks worth of games, you'll start seeing a difference in performance. And if the batters that got starts, and even the ones that didn't get starts, if they could just, because it's an inexperienced unit, it's not going to be sort of a senior player standing up and making a 150 or whatever the case is. Obviously, that would be great if Craig can do that. But I think from a collective standpoint, if everybody can chip in and say, you're looking as a team to get 3-4 half centuries and the other guys that get starts, then you're starting to look at a 300 plus total. And I think with the bowling attack that you have on display, and I don't want people to, because I see this happening a lot in Caribbean media. I don't think people understand the value of a Gudakesh Moti and what he's been able to do across formats. But for me, he's growing at a very exciting rate across formats. And I think that, to have a spin option that can not only take wickets, but keep things tight, especially in conditions that are not favorable to spinners, bodes well for the bowling attack and allows for the skipper to rotate his fast bowlers and keep them fresher to attack more often on the other end. So I'd just like to say, don't be disheartened by that first loss. There are loads of positives to take forward, and you take 700 wickets out of any opposition team, you're looking at a lot more formidable batting options for the West Indies. So these small takeaways, and I'm pretty sure you'd have assessed that as well. It's still a 3-match series, and if you win the next test match, then it becomes a 1-match series. So it's as simple as that, just keeping yourselves in the hunt. Day after day, just keep coming back to the ground day after day, and once you're in the contest, anything could happen. So that would be, I guess, my viewpoint or my message to the great scopes going forward into the second match.
I don't think I could have said it any better myself. From a bowling standpoint, Goodeke came in at a point where obviously we needed him to start well. He did that and gave Craig, the support that he needed. Obviously, Jaden Seals and Alzari, as you mentioned, Shamar went wicket-less in this one, but he will learn from this experience.
Yeah, definitely.
He came across late. Obviously, he was part of that World Cup squad. And Jason, obviously, a seasoned campaigner. He has the ability to add the value in his own way as one of the more senior players. So Kieran, I would not have been able to have said it any better than the way you put it across just now.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said at the start, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and join us, and it's been really interesting to listen to you, and thank you so much.
Right, thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you for joining us on the PowettPlay Podcast, hosted by Kieran Powell and Jordan Shannon. We hope you enjoyed this immersive dive into the world of cricket and business, exploring the unique experiences and perspectives of players past and present, alongside those invaluable insights into intriguing business themes that transcend beyond the boundaries of sporting heroics. Be sure to set your reminders on your Alexa or Google Home device. Or we won't tell anyone if you still use those paper calendar things from a bygone era. Join us next time for more inspiring dialogue with scintillating minds on the PowettPlay Podcast.